Seconds. Starting after I say 10. 1, 2. It's like, he just wouldn't stop.
Okay.
Clap sync.
Now I'm going to do a clap sync. So that's filming. That's going to be my camera. I'm going to sync it up with my audio. Clap sync. Hey guys, Steven from the Church Bois. Today we talk about navigating dating as a Christian. Is there such thing as the one? And what to look for in a healthy partner. These questions and more in today's podcast. Come take a listen with the Church Bois. Thanks, guys. We got another podcast.
Yes.
We're here getting comfortable. So I think we're going to do a two-part series on this one.
Smack the mic, man.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Rest in peace, headphone users. And we're going to do a two-part series on relationships. So we're all experiencing a different season of being with someone, being in a relationship. Me, I just got engaged. So that feels good. That feels different. There's a lot of emotions there. Yeah. After a journey of dating for a year, my now fiance, and also singleness for a bit as well. Mika, how long have you been married with Gigi, your wife?
We've been married for 12 years.
12 years. Okay, so there's like freshly
there's
about to get
history.
married. There's history, and then Johnny's kind of in between with you and your wife. How long have you been married?
So we've been married like 4 years now.
Yeah.
2020.
Yeah,
Nice.
4 years.
Middle of COVID.
Yeah.
COVID.
COVID waiting.
Which was awesome, man, because we got to like really bring down the numbers. Of
Yeah.
Oh,
no,
yeah.
everybody was scared to go to
we
the
could
wedding.
filter a lot of people.
Yeah.
As someone who's currently trying to like cut the list down and like keep it short, keep it small, inexpensive.
Yeah.
I'm sure COVID did wonders.
Yeah. Did wonders
Yeah.
and wonders. Like,
Okay, let's clarify. We're not saying that COVID did wonders. We're saying that for Johnny's wedding.
I'm just saying, if another COVID rolls around,
And it happens
Great
to fall
timing.
and it happens to fall on my wedding date. I wouldn't be mad.
yeah.
oh
I mean,
boy.
dude.
But pretty much, I think the best way to start is like in the timeline of someone who is single, someone who is pursuing the Lord, either just found the Lord and they're in their single life, or they've been with the Lord for some time and they found themselves single, move into dating, and then move into marriage. I think that'd be fun.
I think, man, even when we're talking about singleness, there's such a contrast between like dating in a Christian perspective and dating in a worldly perspective. And sometimes it kind of gets intertwined. You know, people are in the church and they're trying to date like you date in the world, or they're, they don't really know.
Yeah.
A lot of times people don't even know how to date in the church. That's the funny perspective of things.
No, definitely.
Well, the thing is, like, the church, it's been a weird thing where like the church doesn't want to talk about certain things, or like the church was very weirded out by the subject of dating. So it was almost like it was just a weird thing to talk about years ago. So people didn't know how to date, and it was weird because they didn't have a good line from the church. Hey, this is what you should do, or this is the right way to do it. And then the world's way of dating, is it's very wild and everything's allowed, and so
it's ambiguous. It's ambiguous.
Very
You'll know when you're dating in the world, you just don't know what stage you are.
Well, I mean,
a lot of mind games and ghosting and no responsibility.
There's also a lot of like, I don't know where she's at, and but I want this, but I don't know what she wants, and like that's a weird thing. That's a weird experience to have because, I mean, I don't want to get too into depth with how and I dated, but like we both had the same mindset. We were both like clear on what we wanted. We were both like, okay, we want to get married young. We want to have a family young. And so that made it so much easier. It wasn't like I like her and hopefully she likes me, or like, I want to get married, but I don't know if she plans on getting married. So, there's something really funny, which is like, for me, and the engagement, like the asking her to marry me, wasn't really like, I don't know what she's going to say. Like, it's like, we were dating because we wanted to get married. Like, you know, it was very silly to be like, oh, I don't know. I'm going to pop the question and I don't know what her answer is going to be.
And that's the big difference between what I've experienced as someone who spent more of his life not knowing the Lord compared to knowing the Lord now, and like dating back then compared to dating now, is I think with actual, let's say, biblical relationships and someone who, two people who are pursuing the Lord and pursuing authenticity and vulnerability and all those things that come with your relationship with God, being forward, being like open and honest about what do we want, what are we looking for, was very new to me, you know, when I first started dating. And the way you're describing it, yeah, you and your wife, Gigi, you both knew that you guys were going to get married because you both talked about that. While I felt like in the past, or especially in sort of dating when you're not really, how can I say this, like sound in yourself, you're just very hesitant and you don't want to come off as too strong. And that can be mixed up with just holding back like authenticity, just being inauthentic and just letting things kind of play by ear, go with the flow kind of thing, which is dangerous because then you have one person who is sort of at the stage where they're like, oh man, this person's going to be my wife, they're going to be my husband, this and that. And another person is just like, well, we're just friends. We're just friends who
or
have
I've
fun,
never met you
say.
Before.
Or yeah.
Catfished.
And so I think that's something interesting. When it came to dating in your younger lives, do you think being forward with expectations came naturally to you guys, or was it something you had to learn and you had to sort of foster as you began dating, as you began learning what it means to be a Christian?
Here's a bombshell that you might not know, but when you say in your younger lives, what do you mean?
Well, I think some of our first encounters with relationships, like I'm thinking back to middle school when I had my first girlfriend, and we never even had a conversation where it's just like, oh, are we a couple? We just held hands one day, and then that's just what couples do. That's what we saw, and we didn't really have guidance beyond that. So it's like, okay, we're holding hands. I guess we're together. And so it was just very ambiguous and not really like, not a lot of communication there.
I think that's the funny thing because like our parents were very strict. So I remember like a lot of parents they'll play the whole, oh, he's got a little girlfriend in school and noviecito and all this, and our parents didn't do that. Our parents were very strict on us. You know,
12-year-old you go and tell dad, hey, I have a girlfriend. He'll slap the
Really?
girlfriend out of you.
Yeah, man.
Really?
They were very strict on us until you're 18.
Yeah.
No relationship.
No way until you're 18.
Yeah.
Do you guys think you're gonna carry that tradition on with your kids?
No,
my daughter's
absolutely
like
not.
25.
No. My daughter until she's 25.
Until she's
30.
Even longer.
Yeah. I will meet her husband before she meets him.
So as an 18-year-old, you're finally dating. You're in the dating pool. You know what? Better yet, before we even get there,
I will say this because that was like the house rule. Now, obviously, you know, in school, I would, you know, flirt with girls and what would be considered dating. But the fact that they were so strict about that, really, I feel like it really helped to limit the exposure to you know, I wasn't sleeping around because it wasn't more than after school, I'm not going to see you. So it was like, that was
We're boyfriend and girlfriend, but I'm a ghost at 3 o'clock.
Like
only on the
Patrick
school grounds.
Swayze, I'm out of here.
So that actually did a lot of like mitigating the whole.
100%.
You know, I had a buddy in middle school. I think it was 6th or 7th grade. He got his girlfriend pregnant.
Wow.
And he was a really close friend of mine. And watching him like maneuver, like raising a kid in middle school years, bro.
While being a kid.
Insane. That's insane. So So you think that if anything that was actually beneficial to not date?
Of course. Looking back at it now, I'm like, it was the best thing.
But during the time you weren't happy with that.
I hated it, bro.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
Well, because you know, when you're young, like you think you're ready for the world. You think you're ready to do everything that you see in movies, that you see on TV, that you see other people do. You're like, I'm ready for that. I'm old enough to. I'm mature enough, and you don't realize how severe some of those situations are, how the amount of intellect that they require. And so I remember, it's funny that Johnny's talking about this because my friends were going out and having girlfriends and all that in middle school. And I was like, if I liked a girl, I was like, I like her. But if I even say to my mom, "Oh, I'm interested in that girl," I know what the answer is gonna be. It's like, no, you're too young. But the whole reason behind it makes more sense. The whole reason behind it is you're too young because my dad said one time, I think it was my dad or maybe it was my mom. She said to me, she goes, "You like that girl, okay? What are you gonna do? You're gonna go out with her, okay? Your boyfriend and girlfriend? Okay. Then what? That's it. You're kind of like getting ahead of yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's like, for what? There's nothing there. You're not going to get married at 12.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I mean, you could be boyfriend and girlfriend for 7 years, but it's like, you're going to start.
What good does it do?
Yeah, you're getting into a territory that it's going to compromise you eventually. Because we know what happens. You start liking somebody, you start going out, you start being boyfriend and girlfriend, and then like you get flirtatious and you start getting a little handsy, and then all of a sudden you start pushing these boundaries. And so that's why my parents were very clear on that. They're like, no dating until you're 18.
Yeah.
Boundaries
that you don't have the ability to take responsibility for.
Correct.
Because you're so young.
Yeah.
And so, man, that's crazy because my first quote unquote girlfriend was in middle school. And again, it was very vague and ambiguous, but we knew we were a couple just because we liked each other. We said so and we held hands. Right.
Yeah.
But then I think again, my experiences with dating were never like, it never felt intentional. It always just felt like I ended up in that position, honestly.
That's marriage too, bro.
Because when you're dating and you're not being outspoken about your expectations, or heck, you don't even have expectations. I didn't have expectations. I didn't know the value behind marriage or saving myself for marriage, right? I didn't save myself for marriage and all these things. And so I would just find myself ending up in positions where I'm just like, oh, I guess I have a partner now. I guess I have a girlfriend now.
Yeah.
Because that's just how things happen. We don't really like sit down and have these conversations. So I think something that I'm really curious about, especially with you guys waiting till you're 18, which I think is just like
crazy.
It feels old for me, but actually it kind of makes sense now looking back on the things that sort of have affected my view on sexuality and on relationships and all that. I think it's safe. It definitely does protect the person.
So the age doesn't necessarily dictate you're ready for something, you know? I mean, society has these rules for, you got to be 18 to drive, or you're 16 with your permit, you got to be 21 to drink or whatever. The age is, unfortunately, it's a number that doesn't necessarily dictate the maturity of the person. Yeah. But you do know that an 18-year-old versus a 15-year-old or a 13-year-old is a little bit more mature mentally. And so you're saying, okay, well, I expect more from them, And and I think that's the big thing. It wasn't like, the day you turn 18, you can go and get a girlfriend. Yep. It's more of like a state of mind, like you're mature enough.
You can safely assume that by that age, they should know what
I started talking to a girl when I was 17. I wasn't 18. I beat the I jumped the gun a little bit, but it wasn't a thing where it was like, we were talking. I mean, we were a little serious, but I was very serious because, again, like not having, let's say, quote unquote, dated, even though like I did have my couple, little secret dates or like secret girlfriend here and there, that the pastors didn't know about, my parents didn't know about. I did like start talking to a girl seriously when I was 17. And I actually told my mom, I was like, hey, Mom, I want you to know I'm actually talking. I think I waited until she was about to drop me off in school. And so I was like, I'm going to say this, get out of the car. And like, I got 8 hours to hopefully she doesn't kill me. Yeah. But that was like, I told him we came back from a trip and I was like, hey, just so you know, I'm kind of talking to so-and-so. Yeah. And she's like, I figured, you know.
Yeah.
So there was definitely it was definitely a thing where it was more of a maturity state. And I think the biggest maturity difference in my life was that, like, around from 16 to 17 and 18, like, I think that's when I really started understanding the responsibilities, you know?
And at 17, you think you had the mindset to, like, or at 17, were you already like, okay, I'm dating for marriage, or like?
If I say what I'm gonna say, I was 14, 15 years old, and in my mind, I was like, I want to meet a girl, get married young, have a family.
Wow.
I was
not thinking that at that age.
That's a lot of the Christian perspective too.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
You know, we in the Christian world, we do tend to date intensely, but like, and marry quickly.
Yeah.
You know, like everybody at 18 is getting married, and it's like, because again, and I think a little bit has to do with the fact that they don't teach good, or dating culture hasn't been taught well for many years. And so I feel like Christians, sometimes we gotta, like, when we do start dating, it's like we're very over spiritual about it, and then we feel like this responsibility of like, I gotta marry right away, and so it's like, I don't know, I feel like it's a little intense sometimes.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to. You were in high school?
Yeah. So well, I mean, I don't think it's the last thing that you just said right now was they got to get married right away. And I don't think that's not always the case. At least not for me. For me, it wasn't a thing that I was like, oh, you know, that's what they've taught me and that's what I have to do. It's like genuinely what I wanted.
Those are values that you learn through your relationship with the Lord.
Yeah, like my thing was always like have a family young and enjoy the kids young, and I never really looked at like a guy in his 30s or 40s being single and being like, oh, I want that for myself. It was never really the thing. Partially because the way I am, I always thought about like, you know, who's going to be my wife and, you know, what was she up to? It was just, I don't know. It's maybe the way God made me. I was more conscious about that. And I always thought about that. That's what I'm saying. When I was 15 years old and there was a girl in church that was a couple years older than me. Mm-hmm. One day I just noticed her.
Yeah.
She'd been around for years, but one day I noticed her and I started kind of liking her and we started talking, but the conversation was always serious. It was always about like, you know, dating with a purpose, getting married and starting a family. It was always, from my point of view at least, you know. And then throughout the years up to the point where I met my wife, that was always my mentality. It was always like, so whenever I met a girl, it was like I already knew what I wanted. I just needed to know if she wanted something similar or if she wanted something completely different. And then that would give me a good idea as to this is not going to work. And so I wouldn't even waste time. You know, it was like,
and you already knew what you wanted, which I think is rare for that age. At 17, I had no idea what I wanted.
Yeah.
At 17, I was just taught, like, you know, go chase after the girl. You know, having a girl by your side means it equates to your ability as a man. It equates to your value, this and that. That's what I was taught in that age, in that season. So that's really interesting, to think that at that age you're already really sure of yourself and like the things that you want for your future and what you're looking for in your partner. So that's interesting. How do you? Okay, so going a bit back then, what kind of advice do you give to people who are going through the single stage, their single era, and they're like, I know what I want. I want a wife and kids. I want a husband and kids. I want a family.
So I'm going to tell you something that you probably never heard me say, but I used to tell the teenagers at church all the time.
Yeah.
And Johnny disagrees with me a little bit on this maybe, but I had a list of things that I wanted.
Yikes.
Yeah. About to get just walking into cancellation. I had a list, but it wasn't, it was a little, some things were specific, and I can promise you Giselle is like that list. Yeah. You know what I mean? It was unbelievable. And I
think it's all right to have like a standard.
Yeah, you know? but I'll tell you what it is I used to tell the teenagers. So I would tell the teenagers, them like, guys, if I told you right now, hey, go get a red balloon, and then you're sitting here and you're going, all right, Mika told me to go get a red balloon, and I say, listen, you might not find it right now. It might not be in this room. It might not be outside, but you know what? You're going to be out there. You're going to be going around to school or maybe to work or going to the mall, going anywhere. One day, you're going to be walking around. You're going to see a red balloon. You're going to say, oh, that's the thing Mika told me to get.
Mm-hmm.
So he told me to find a red balloon. What happens is when you know what you're looking for, you know when you find it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But Christian dating, or dating in general, not Christian dating, I wouldn't say Christian dating. Dating in general, I think people don't know what they're looking for. Mm-hmm. So what they're dating somebody and going, is this a person I like? Does this person have the things that maybe I want? And they're not so sure of it. Whereas with me, it was like I knew what I wanted. So when I met a girl, I would kind of go on that list of things that I wanted and say, okay, does she have the same things? Does she want the same things that I want? Does she the way that I want her to be? Is she, you know what I mean? Does she have the family values that I want her to have? Is she focused on God the way I want her, like the way I want someone to be focused on God? And so those were the things that I would look at. And then the moment that I found somebody that started showing those characteristics, I would say, okay, perfect. Let me spend more time with this person and basically, you know, learn about them at a much deeper level. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that's much different than like how certain people are, because
no, you could say it's much more different than you.
no, what I mean is like there's people that date that way, but they're much more intense about it.
Yeah.
Like, I remember when I got to OCU, I would have the same idea of like, okay, I'm looking for a wife. You know, it was almost like every girl that I would meet, even though it wasn't a date. It was just I was meeting people, making friends. But every girl in the back of my head, I was like, is this my wife? Could you know, how could it work out? You know, like, and it was so intense that I remember one day I was talking to one of my buddies at the college, and he says, Johnny, you're not really honoring the friendships that you're making, because every girl you meet, in the back of your head you have an agenda. Like, is this my wife? You know, like, and you're putting all this pressure when she's like, it's just a friendship.
Yeah.
You know, and what tends to happen is like that we're having a conversation, and the moment I see like a red flag or something, I check out mentally.
Yeah.
And so it's like it really kind of you know, it was turning into a thing where it was kind of dishonoring the person.
Yeah.
And so it really shifted my perspective on dating. I remember after that, just like an example was we went to Topgolf with some friends. I saw a girl from one of the churches, caught my attention, asked her out on a date, and I remember like halfway through the date, I'm like, yeah, this is not gonna work out. Like, we're just we want different things. But I remember like consciously and actively being like, I'm still gonna honor her on the date, because I want that I want to set a high standard, so that for when this girl, when she goes on the next date, if somebody treats her worse than I'm treating her, she'll notice, you know. And it's like,
and she'll miss me. No,
no, but we're raising the bar
for
Christian men. You know, I think that's the problem. And one of the biggest, and you guys know, one of the biggest pet peeves I have is that Christian men don't know how to date, man. And we're like so worried about dating and so intense about it that we fall into like that really weird, God told me you're my wife, I dreamt about you, and all this weird stuff.
Yeah.
When all it takes is like asking a girl out, you know.
Yeah. And I think, and I super relate to that, because when you first have an encounter with the Lord, it is so radical and so much change happens that you go from like hot to cold or cold to hot, right? You go from one end of the spectrum to a completely different end of the spectrum. So when I first came to the Lord and I was like comparing my dating life back then before to what I was learning and navigating about what dating meant in the Christian world, I completely went from like hot to cold.
Well, what? Go back.
That when I was comparing my dating life before the Lord, and then comparing, and then like kind of like maneuvering what it meant.
Like what dating meant. I was like, whoa, buddy.
You're like, whoa.
What
Who you
dating
dating?
meant?
Dating meant?
You
Yeah,
got
pronounce the T there.
the T. Dating meant.
You better pronounce that T, boy.
Yeah.
Oh my god. But pretty much, like, I pivoted so much to the other end where I was doing what you were talking about. I had a season where every person I encountered, I was holding them up to the standard of, like, are they wife worthy, instead of simply, loving them for who they are, and acknowledging their authenticity and who they are, and just, like, getting to know them as friends and stuff like that. And so that was a season that I had to maneuver. That was a season that I had to sort of, like, grow out of and learn a lot. The Lord had to bring wisdom to me that, yeah, like you said, you make a really good point that sometimes we don't honor these people because we're just constantly looking for their potential.
You're trying to see what benefits you.
Yeah. We're trying to see like this person is wife material.
Now
things like
that's
that.
in regards to like what you're, which I think is 100%. It's I agree with, like, knowing what you want out of a relationship, right?
Yeah.
I think the other side of that coin is that guys get into relationships
and they don't know
what the heck they want, and then they're just kind of stringing along
burning
girls
time for no reason
that are very emotional, and like which I've been there too, and so it's like I think knowing what you want is super super key. What do you think in regards to like what we said, because I have such a strong perspective on this, and you guys know it, but I don't know if I've ever asked what you guys think about this. But do you think that God can tell you, like, who your partner is?
So can I share what happened with Giselle? Because when I was 19 years old, we're at a church service, and we invited a prophet and his wife, which at the time we didn't know she was a prophet. And so I was single. I was actively looking to find my wife, and the prophet, goes up on stage and he's saying hi to the people, and then he's like, I want to introduce my wife so she can say hi to you all. And so she goes on stage and she starts, like, saying hi to the people of the church. And I'm on the side of the stage because I'm doing the audio. And, dude, this lady went from, like, hi, everybody, and my name is so-and-so. I don't even remember her name. And she turns around. Like, she turns to the side, and she looks at me. And she goes, and don't worry about the woman that you're looking for. She goes, God is going to introduce you to your wife. No one is going to introduce you. And I remember thinking, like, how does she know I'm single?
Yeah.
And how does she know I'm looking for a wife? And it was just like it was crazy. We believed in the prophetic and everything, but that was kind of like a whoa, that came out of nowhere, literally, because she was talking to the people, and it's like she got a text message from God, and she was like, boom, and she just turned to me, and she mid sentence gave me this word. When I met Giselle, nobody introduced us. I met her by mistake through something else. So I looked at that and I was like, wow, like, God told me that it was going to happen that way,
Yeah.
And the Bible says God won't do anything without first letting know his servants, the prophets. So I do believe that God can show you the person who you're going to marry. I do believe that God could tell you. But
all right, well, this was a
get
good podcast.
ready. Get ready. But the huge but
50% of the whoever's watching this is going to be like, God told me that that's my husband.
God told me,
even
and
though
the podcast told me.
Even though that's her husband, he's my husband.
Yeah,
because
oh,
God told me.
Oh God, no.
No.
Oh Lord.
I definitely straddle the fence on this, you know, and because me.
I'm sorry. What kind of saying is that? Is that straddle? Yo, we're trying to keep it. We're trying to keep it friendly,
this
dude.
ain't PG, is it? I'm on the fence about it. How about that? It's better than straddling fences.
There we go. I don't know what straddling is, but I'm sorry, kids.
I don't want to be straddling nothing. Okay.
Yeah, dude.
But I'm like back and forth on it because me and my fiance, me and Caitlin talk about this, and I don't really believe in the one. Let's say,
bro.
I think like no, don't worry. And wait, we've talked about this. She believes in the one. She kind of like follows that, and I think God can work in every unique way, right? For me, that always felt romanticized. I really feel like God prepares us and prepares our character so that the person that we do meet and that we are intentional with can be that person, can be your future husband or your future wife. Okay. Instead of so much so being like you perfection is only or the perfect union can only be found with these two people. It's like, no, I'm going to give you the heart so that you can make that union beautiful no matter who you find, as long as that person as well has been encountering me and allowing me to mold and work on their character. And that way two people who meet and two people who individually are pursuing the Lord can meet and create something really, really beautiful. You know? And so I don't know. I just think the Lord, he gives us, I mean, I can see that happening as well with you because the prophets spoke it, right? And absolutely God can bring people together, right? But he can also bring hearts to healing, hearts to himself. And then in that process, you can find people with the same mind, with the same heart for him. You know?
I think the cool thing is that when God speaks, he speaks specifically, but also it's very ambiguous sometimes. And I think in the matter of dating, he will speak. Because the funny thing is, I got words about what my wife would be like. And it's funny because I think back and I'm like, knowing Cynthia today, it totally makes sense. You know, somebody told me, oh, she's going to come from a big church. She came from a huge church. She's, you know, somebody else in Texas told me that she was going to be a dancer. Very, very like childlike, like, yes. Innocently, and that's exactly Cynthia. You know, the funny thing is that I think it does go to the extreme of like when God speaks and then we try to fill in the words that he's not saying. I think that's the problem. Yeah.
Or sometimes people can spend their whole lives waiting for God to speak, and then they miss so many opportunities.
Ask her out.
And then they never ask her out.
Because
and then time starts running out, and then
God's
God's very all of a sudden very intense.
Now God wants them to talk to every girl.
Yeah.
Listen, so we were talking about this last night because we had almost like a mini podcast last night.
Nice.
I go to Argentina in 2007 for the first time in 13 years, right? And so we're known as like the sons of the pastors from Miami, right? So it's like people know us. They knew us when we were very little. I mean, I was 5 years old. Johnny was a year old. But people kind of know us. Facebook is already around, and there's pictures and everything.
We were that old when we left.
We were that old when we left Argentina, and we go back 13 years later, right? So, you know, I'm like 13. Yeah, I was 4 when we left. I was 17 when we go back. Johnny was a year old, and then, you know, now he was like 15 or 14.
Yeah, like 13, 14.
13, 14. So we go back to Argentina, and, you know, it was funny. I was talking about this last night. We sit on the side of the stage, and, you know, the pastor of the church finishes preaching, and he introduces us. And so, like, a couple days into our trip, one day, or maybe it was getting closer to the end of the trip, but one girl comes up to me, and she hands me a note. She's like, "This is for you." And I was like, okay. I thought it was like, I didn't know what I thought it was. Because it was, I mean, I thought it was like maybe like a, you know, like a little like.
Little cute letter
or something. Because I'm like, a girl randomly comes up to you and hands you a note.
Yeah.
And her, you know, she's kind of blushing. I'm like, that's what it has to be,
Mr.
right?
Confident.
Yeah. I was like, all right.
I knew it was going to be a love letter.
I knew it was that.
With the ladies over there.
And the funny thing is, I was like, okay. And I grabbed the letter and I put it in my pocket. I was like, I'm not gonna read this. Like, it's a big lobby. There's like 200
Oh my
people.
god!
I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna
put it
read
on the
this.
microphone.
Where's the podcast mic? And I was like, I'm gonna read this when I get home. So I get home. I'm like, I open it up. I start reading. And it's like, bro, it's an essay, dude.
Yeah.
I was like, wow.
Oh, dang.
And it's like from a girl, and she starts telling me that, like, God showed her that I was gonna be her husband, and a bunch of stuff. Like, but that was like the main gist of it was like, I'm gonna be her husband, and God showed her that we're gonna be together, and that, and I was like, okay. But I was interested in another girl, so I was like,
you're like, dang,
yeah.
God didn't tell me.
Yeah, like he forgot to tell me. So that was weird,
Yeah,
and
that happens.
it's funny because guys will usually be on the other end of that. They'll be like,
Nah,
God,
man, it's
no. But what I'm saying is, wait.
dual-sided.
What I'm saying is, it's very normal. Okay, if you think about it, hey, I know somebody who told another person that God showed them that they were their partner. Who's the receiver of the word, and who's the person that's being told?
I feel like a lot of times it's girls. I think
No,
it's
and
I'll tell you why,
guys,
man.
It's definitely guys.
I think honestly, if it's not even, I think
Dude, the
girls-
famous phrase is "God told me you're my wife." That's literally the famous phrase, bro.
But think about it, man, because I've heard
It
time
happens
and
for
time
both,
again,
yeah.
like, oh no, I'm not gonna waste my time dating because God showed me my husband, and it's just like
and then they miss out on just really good relationships.
Yeah, that's true.
You know
That's
what's the scary part, man?
That
It's
sounded that sounded a little too close to home, Johnny.
I just heard that one over and over again.
Johnny's like, trust me.
They say it. They say it.
Told me.
Dude, I forgot about that.
No what?
Didn't a girl? Weren't you like interested in a girl, and then she ended up telling you that God had shown her husband with someone else?
No, I don't remember that.
He
I've got her
suppressed
rejected
it.
before, but I don't remember that.
Bro, wasn't it?
Could be.
And it was. I don't want to say any names, but,
but don't say a name, but describe a little bit.
Describe with the name.
Delray Beach. I think.
What?
Wait, was it? I don't remember the name. Sorry, guys. We're
No,
a
no.
private conversation in a podcast that's supposed to be recorded. Hold on, let me whisper it to you.
Was it
Let
an
me whisper
ex-girlfriend?
into the
I
mic.
think it was a girl that you were dating, and then she said somebody gave her a word that somebody in her church was going to be her husband.
Okay. So, I dated a girl, and this kind of sets the stage for when I dated Cynthia. I dated a girl from a church, and they were very, very heavy on the God told me dating and marriage and all this stuff. And we were dating in a relationship. And the funny thing is, this girl goes to like a church retreat. And whatever, we end up breaking up. It didn't work out. And then I start finding out that like the whole time while we were dating, she was telling people like, oh, I'm going to marry the pastor's son. And that's my husband. Wow. And like, I know it. And we were dating.
And you weren't the pastor's son.
No, it was the pastor of that church.
Of the other church.
Of the other church.
She had Johnny on
and
standby.
Of course, it was like...
Just in case, yeah.
Of course, it was like the main pastor's son. It was like...
Of course.
God spoke to a lot of girls at that church, apparently, that they were going to marry that guy. But
that dude was popular.
but a lot of that weird stuff. What I've seen with the whole God told me stuff is that it puts so much pressure. I had never seen this, and I want to give an example. Is I had never seen this happen, and then when I saw it, it broke my heart. Wow, Cynthia and I know of a couple that the girl was very intense about the guy. Mm-hmm. She kept saying, "God told me, God showed me, I dreamt it, whatever." The guy, they end up dating, they get engaged in like a Q&A session at the church. Mm-hmm. One of the questions, the guy gets up and he's like, "Oh, what do you do if like, you're engaged to somebody, but you're not sure if they're right fit, but you want to do the will of God?" And it's just like, oh, buddy, man, it's like
you're already hesitant like that, asking questions.
Exactly. And then you feel trapped because then you feel like if I break up with this person, then I'm not really like, I don't really want to be with them.
Yeah.
Now I feel like I'm missing God's will and all of this just weird stuff, dude. And so
did they end up breaking up?
they didn't end up breaking up. I think they had quite a few issues. And
Yeah.
and
Are
it
they
was
still
just
together?
weird. I don't know, honestly.
That dude is like,
Man.
that dude's along for the ride.
Yeah, bro. But
No, the second.
and then same Q&A, man. So when Cynthia and I dated, one of the funny things was like, we go to the leaders. I'm like, I want to meet who you're doing life with, and then her leaders are like, how many confirmations from the Lord did you get?
Oh
and,
my God.
and I'm just like, oh,
37.
37 and a
yeah,
half.
like a wrong one.
Just throw numbers out there, bro. Who cares?
And I remember to this day, Cynthia's like, that was such a God conversation, because in the moment, he's like, the guy's like, oh, how many confirmations did you get? Because God is the one that has to tell you who you got to date.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, that's not in the Bible. And then he's like, what do you mean? I'm like, that's not in the Bible. God doesn't tell you who to marry. God doesn't tell you who to date.
Yeah.
And then he's like, yeah, but an angel appeared to Joseph, and it was like this, bro, the Holy Spirit in the moment.
Yep.
I'm like, Joseph already decided to marry Mary.
Absolutely.
And then when he finds out she's pregnant, he decides he's gonna leave her, and then that's when the angel shows up and says, don't leave her. This is a plan and all this. They had already made the decision.
Correct.
Yeah.
Even the case with like,
Gotcha.
yeah. And then it was just like, and then this is how weird it got. That he didn't have much to say after that. Whatever. We walk away. They asked to talk to her, and then they start saying like, "Oh, we feel discern that like there's something weird about him and all this stuff, and just very, very over spiritual."
Yeah.
And then funny thing is later when we got engaged, we reconciled, but it was like there was no need for that. It was just a matter of immaturity and in that aspect, man.
Yeah, I think God gives us our voice back for a reason, right? Like when we meet him and we encounter him, he gives us back our joy. He gives us back a voice. He gives us back our identity. He allows us to make choices and make educated choices, obviously, like with him by our side. And so yeah, I think that's wild that some people can allow hesitancy to enter their mind, like that man in the Q&A. Like the second you give hesitance or doubt room to play, it's gonna absolutely like destroy you, and it's gonna put you in a cycle, because then you start thinking, oh, if I'm doubting, then that must mean I'm not really committed. And if I'm not committed, then that's why I'm doubting. And then no, is like
yeah, it turns into a spiral.
Be sturdy in your identity with the Lord, and like walk the walk, pray to him, and
trust that he's gonna guide you,
and trust that he's gonna guide you.
And doubts are still gonna arise. I mean, like there was moments with Cynthia where we were dating and hard times that we went through, and like and doubts were there. Like some doubts would creep in.
Yeah, nervousness.
But exactly, nervousness.
You can be nervous about a situation but still want it.
Exactly.
Right? It doesn't have to be. Yeah.
Well, you have to understand that
Both can
like
be true.
it's such a big decision, because you're going into dating knowing you want to go into marriage.
Yeah.
And you're going into marriage believing that there is no second option, there is no divorce option, there is no backing out.
Yeah.
So it's an intimidating decision, you know, and that's why I believe it's okay to be strict in the sense of like know what you want, know what you're not willing to compromise on. I don't believe you should be so strict that you're like an angel needs to bring her in front of me. I mean, if God wants to do that, he'll do it, right?
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that that's the way God's going to do it every single time. And so I'm of the idea that you can be strict. You can say, I'm not going to compromise on this. I'm not going to compromise on this. And so when God, knowing what you want, knowing that what you want is for him to be first in your life, he's not gonna. I mean, you're like, God, I love you and I want to start a family. I don't think God would be like, hey, let me send you this girl that loves to party.
Yeah.
She might be the one. It's like, unless that's where she came from and then she changed, she started having a relationship with God and changed. But if it's like, no, every day I want to go and party, it's like, I don't really think that's the right thing. I was very strict when I was younger. And that's why I said it before. I had like a list of things. I was so strict. I was so like dead set on my list that one day I was in class and there's a girl sitting in front of me, and she was a very nice girl and she was very pretty. And we start talking and everybody's like kind of talking or whatever. And I hadn't really like noticed her until that day, right? And then we go to a lab and and she sits next to me and whatever, we're working on something. I can't remember what it was we were working on, but she starts telling me about like how she does activities with her family and how she'd like to go like in the ocean and stuff like that. And I was like, wow, that's really cool, And I started finding her interesting. But my first thought was, oh, well, too bad. She's not Christian. I literally said that to myself, Yeah. That's how strict I was. I was like, the first thing needed to be like a Christian girl, a girl that had a relationship with God.
Yeah.
I found out later that she was Christian. Yeah. But I was so strict and on the sense that like if I didn't see that the person was Christian, like it wasn't even an option.
Yeah.
Because I didn't want the battle of, oh, she needs to start coming to church with me and like she needs to have a relationship with God. Like I didn't want that battle. My thought was always like, if she's not Christian, I'm either going to pull her to church or she's going to pull me out of church. And I don't want to deal with that battle. So
oh yeah, 100%, man. I wouldn't have
yeah.
I mean, I dated non-Christian girls, but I was non-Christian myself at the time. Like,
but you also weren't dating them going like, maybe there's something maybe there's potential.
I was just being silly and not really following the Lord and stuff.
I think that's such a big topic too, honestly, and that's a topic that we encountered before, Johnny, like a while ago, back when I was first dating and stuff and I first found the Lord and I was navigating that. I'd love to hear your opinions on this. Is like, what do you think about Christian people dating non-Christians?
Okay.
I know your opinion because you just said it. You're like,
well, the Bible
they
says
gotta
it,
be,
and you're entering a yoke that is not the same. Right. Yeah. So that's why you're gonna have problems. Because one of you is gonna want one thing, the other one's gonna want the other.
It's just a lifestyle thing.
Listen, it's not even as bad as, oh, the person's not Christian, because you could be dating a Christian person. But that person doesn't have a relationship with God. They accepted Jesus, or maybe they went to church a couple times, or maybe they go to church, but it's superficial, right?
Yeah.
You're not. What ends up happening is you are of a different yoke in Christianity. You have different priorities. One of you maybe has the life focused on God, and the other one is like, yeah, I love Jesus, but my career is my life, and so there's differences there, and those differences are going to manifest in the dating, and then they're going to manifest in the marriage as well, because just because the person's Christian doesn't, believe me, I can tell you a story. I can tell you a story of me talking to a Christian girl. As a matter of fact, we were talking about this last night, and I cut it short because I wanted to save this for today.
Tell us about
juicy.
it.
Dude, it's gonna get wild.
Juicy.
If I have, let me see, how much time do we got? 48, 10 minutes? Okay, give me 5 minutes. 5 minutes.
It's yours.
And dude, so my youth pastor here starts, his grandma or somebody passes away in Argentina. He goes on to Argentina for the funeral, meets this girl, and he's like, he just falls head over heels for her, right? So he comes back, he tells me, he's like, Mika, I met the one. So I was like, wow, dude, like that's amazing, So I was super happy for him. A few months later, she flies over here. She comes over here. She comes to meet the church, comes to meet him and everybody. And we start, I meet her, and we start, we instantly become like friends, right? And super nice girl and everything. One day she tells me, Mika, you have to meet my sister. She's perfect for you. So I was like, sweet, you know, like I didn't have to. That wasn't complicated. This was years before I met Giselle.
Mm-hmm.
So she tells me I have to meet my sister. So we had a trip planned to go to Argentina. It was the first time we were going to go to Argentina in 13 years. And so I was like, this is perfect. I'm going to go there. I'm going to meet her sister. Hopefully we hit it off, and it's perfect. I mean, my friend's in love with the girl, and if I meet the sister, it's like it's perfect, right? So I go to Argentina. We go to the church service. That was actually that thing where we were sitting on the side of the stage and the pastor introduces us. And then the service finishes, and my friend's at that time girlfriend comes up to me and she says hi to me. And she's like, hey, how's it going? Oh, my God. Because I had just seen her like a month ago. She goes, this is my sister. And she points like almost right behind me. So I turn around, and her sister had like ran off of the steps and had come down to the stage to say hi to us, right? So whatever, I start saying hi to her sister and everything. We hung out a couple times. I started texting her, and we really like hit it off, and we were talking a lot, right? Mm-hmm. She was a few years older than me, which that was not disclosed at the beginning when she told me her sister was perfect for me. She was 5 years older than me, and I was 17, so she was, you know, she was up there.
Illegal.
yeah. Whoop. So, anyways, so we start talking. I come back from Argentina, right? Obviously with the whole family. I start school, and that's when I tell my mom, hey, listen, you know, I've been talking to this girl. We had been talking like through chat, you know, MSN Messenger Live, I think is what it was. Yeah, back in the day. Sponsored by. It's not even
AOL,
around anymore.
Yeah. Bankrupt company.
So that's why they're sponsoring our podcast. So we start talking, whatever. So one day I build up the courage to tell my mom. I'm like, Mom, I'm talking to this girl. And my mom's like, yeah, I kind of figured you would. Because, you know, we came back.
Mother's intuition.
You know, we went to Argentina as like the Miami boys, you know, So whatever, you know, when my mom was not like, you're too young. No, like the moment she was like, okay, I was like, wow, this is different. Mm-hmm. So we start talking, and we're talking for like 6 to 8 months. Okay. Chats, video calls, everything. Just like every day for an hour, 2 hours, chatting, talking about, you know, joking around about like, I wanted her to come here. She wanted me to go over there, like, you know, where we were going to live or whatnot. And it was, you know, the conversations were serious because we were both Christian and we were both talking about getting married.
Yeah.
And then one day, nothing, just radio silence. And I mean, I'm just like, you know, what's going on? So I'm sending her messages. I'm sending her emails. I'm like, you know, something happened. Nothing. Absolute silence. So, you know, days turn into weeks. Weeks turn into months. And then like about 5 or 6 months later, I'm at church one day here in Miami. And she walks through the door.
Wow.
And I'm like...
You're like, where have you been?
What's going on? Like, from you're not talking to me to all of a sudden showing up.
Yeah.
So, like, I say hi to her. She's, like, kind of standoffish. I'm like, okay.
God, of course.
That was weird.
Who knows how she feels after?
Yeah.
She ghosted. Like
she ghosted me. So, like, how I don't care how she feels. Right? So, whatever. Like, you know, the day ends. I talk to my friend. My friend's like, "Hey, we gotta go," because at that point, I think he was already married with his wife and
with her sister.
With her sister, yeah, they had already gotten married and everything.
Oh man!
So I'm like, okay, what's going on? You know, but whatever. So that was one day. I think one day I saw her, and then that's it for another like 3 months, and then. One day, I'm on Facebook, and I see a post of her and a baby, and all the comments congratulating her on her baby. And I start doing mental math.
Oh, my God.
And I was like,
she got pregnant.
9 months ago was the time she stopped talking to me.
That's crazy. Yeah. What the heck?
Yeah. So and
Bro,
trust
this girl
me,
talking
trust
to
me,
you too
virtual
and
virtual
everything.
messenger was not that good, where that could have happened. Okay,
Holy
it wasn't.
heck.
It wasn't. Yeah. So I was just like,
Bro, no, but for that to have happened, either she was also talking to someone and like building that relationship in the background, or she was just a party animal.
I don't know what it was.
That's wild.
I don't know what it was.
No way.
I will tell you this, man. I was hurt by it because I was
I
I was vested in this relation. Because I was like, dude,
course.
you know, like, and so the funny thing is that was the first person I ever told my parents that that I was talking to, and it was like kind of a serious thing,
so
you
it
know.
was serious for you, yeah.
And that's how that turned out. Yeah,
Wow.
she showed up 9 months later with a baby. And I was you know,
crazy.
I've been on Messenger the whole time. I mean,
Yeah.
do not look at me, you know. And so that's
Dude.
how that ended. And you know, obviously it ended. I was like, we're done. Never
of
spoke
course.
to her again.
So it's funny because that's so true. It's like, we were watching a show with Cynthia a while back, and it's like a dating show, and hilarious. It's like a blind dating show. What's it called?
Love is blind.
Love is
Yeah.
blind. Love is blind.
Oh man.
And it was so funny, man. The guy and the girl, they're talking through the screen, through the whatever, and then she's like, "Oh yeah, like, what do you think about God? Because God is such an important aspect of my life, and I'm a believer, and I go to church, whatever." And the guy's, "No effing way, me effing too."
Yeah,
and I'm
yeah.
like, that
He was a
sums
believer.
up- that
Oh,
sums
man.
up so much. The fact that like it's not just about, oh, this person's Christian.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
yeah.
It's okay. How you judge them
The
by the
depth.
fruits.
Yeah.
You know,
The
same
depth,
thing. Like
yeah.
we talked about friendships last podcast, but it's everything is the depth of your relationship with Jesus. You
Yeah.
know, how
Yeah.
serious are you? I remember there was a season where I would go to church. We never missed a church service growing up. Yet, for me, it was like, do you believe there is a God? Okay, great. Like, it was like I did not care if they
Yeah,
were
if she
Christian.
said, "Oh God," Johnny was like, "Let's go."
But then it's like when you start going after God and He really takes a hold of your heart, man. It completely shifts everything over.
Wow.
And then you do start getting very selective in the sense of like you don't want to waste time because you're so passionate about God, and then you're eventually running after Him. And somebody one time gave that example. It's like you're running after God so hard that eventually you realize somebody's running next to you. And I think that's the great example of dating, where it's, you know, do I believe in the one and all of this? I don't know, because, you know, Cynthia does fit a lot of the words that God spoke over me. But did I realize, like, was I just going after God, dating in a healthy way, dating and asking girls out to coffee, and I was doing that, and then eventually just one stuck around, you know, and that was me.
And Johnny married that one.
And I married that one.
Yeah.
I didn't scare her off, and it was
Well,
great, man.
there's a saying which I used to tell every girl that I met that I was interested in. I would say a woman must be so lost in God that a man must seek him in order to find her.
Damn.
That was
That
my
was Mika's
motto.
killer
Dang.
line.
Yeah,
That's
yeah, yeah.
I was
Hallmark.
like, I've
Isn't that good?
rehearsed
That's
this one.
Hallmark.
Hold on,
dude.
let me say that. Let me say that soft and into the mic. A woman must be so lost in God
ASMR.
that a man must seek him in order to find her. And I remember like
love it.
I remember, bro, I must have said that like 3 or 4 times. That where I was like, dude, this is gonna kill, bro. This is gonna kill.
You
And
rehearsed it in the
then-
mirror.
I don't think
Thank
I ever
God
told
it
that
has
to
a
Giselle.
tattoo.
I think to Giselle, I was like, hey, I live in Miami. There's palm trees. She was like, yes. Yeah,
She's like, did you say palm trees?
yeah. Oh my god, the
Miami.
moment.
You
I love
had
that
me
moment.
at Miami.
That's something that you reminded me about what you were saying, Johnny, and this was some of the first sort of things that we spoke about and that you mentioned to me when I started getting into the dating game as a Christian, and it really stuck with me, and I still believe it today, even now, like through my engagement and stuff, is that every girl you encounter, every girl you date, if it doesn't work out, at least leave showing them a good example of a healthy relationship, of a healthy dating relationship. You know?
I think I love that. I learned that from my buddy in Texas. That's the goal, man. I don't think it always works out because I was trying to do that, and then right before I met Cynthia, I was talking to somebody, and just the how could I put it into words? It's like the same thing. They were in Argentina, their church. The environment got so toxic that I remember I was interested in this one girl. We were talking, but it was a little weird because we were talking, but we would never FaceTime and stuff like that. And then when we finally FaceTime, I realized, okay, I'm not that attracted to her, so I'm not going to keep leading her on. And then another girl starts messaging me from the church.
God damn, Johnny, stop.
Nah, but listen, but that I don't want. So another girl starts messaging me.
Mm-hmm.
But then I remember, like, Mika's sister-in-law gets here one day, and she starts asking, like, what's going on with this? Like, there's people over there trying to find out, like, what's going on. And I'm just like, this is too much. And I just cut ties with everything.
The big issue with the girls in Argentina was, like, they were trying to get the plane ticket. I don't know how to say it in a softer way. We'll edit this out. We'll cut this out.
No.
They're trying to win the lottery. Maybe, I don't know. Yeah. But they were more. There was a huge interest in the fact that we were from Miami.
I get you.
That was a big deal.
Role. That plays a role.
Yeah, if you could knock out two birds
but I
with
don't
one
know
stone.
do you remember that? Because that was, for me, that was such a pivotal moment. I had been trying to, like, okay, what does healthy dating look like? And there was even another girl that and again, we're using dating loosely because for me it was like, I'm getting to know a girl and, like, there's a little bit of interest, but I'm just
it's not boyfriend girlfriend. We're literally talking about getting to know
not
them.
a relationship, right?
Yeah.
So there was one girl, and everything on paper looked right. She was the daughter of an apostle that we knew, and, like, on paper it looked perfect. But it was just, I wasn't attracted to her in the sense of she was a pretty girl, but there was just no like a romantic thing. It was we were friends, we would hang out, but I wasn't romantically attracted to her.
Yeah.
But I remember with her, I was like, hey, look, there was a certain point where I was really, like, hey, I don't really see this going anywhere. I think we should just stay friends. And so I was being proactive in that sense. But I do remember, man, like when his sister-in-law got into town and it was like, oh, there people are asking me to find out what's going on or something like that. I was just like, this is too messy. I cut ties with everything. Yeah. And then from there, that's when I met Cynthia. And with Cynthia, it was different. It was every other girl was very different because I was attracted to them. And it was almost like I liked the chase more. But with Cynthia, what was different was that we would hang out and we just didn't want to stop hanging out. Like, it was just funny that way where there was just so much. We would just go and sit at the beach for hours and talk. Yeah. For me, that was so different. Where it was like, I wasn't trying to, like, drum up something. It was just, we were just hanging out all the time. We literally, I think since we started dating, we never spent a day apart. Especially because COVID.
Again,
with COVID,
sponsored by COVID,
we would have to, like, she would come over my house. I would go over her house.
Yeah, Cynthia was also in the same time zone. Same time zone, same state,
same city,
almost same city, but an hour drive, dude. I would have driven 5 hours every week if I could have seen Giselle. Yeah. If I could have seen Giselle with more frequency.
No, absolutely.
Because look, when I met Giselle, she was living in Argentina.
It's funny. I'm saying this to Steven, who's engaged to Caitlin,
and
who's
she
in
lives
Canada.
In Canada.
What?
Steven's like, yeah, sounds great.
Yeah,
that
must be nice
every
to.
day.
Yeah, Johnny's like, I never spent a day apart. Steven over here.
And I'm just here with tears. Just a single tear falling down.
That's the part. Hey, listen, that's the part that sucks about, like, dating long distance. I mean, I'm so happy that you guys get to see each other, like, almost like every other month. Yeah. You know what I mean? That's amazing.
No, it's a blessing. Thank God.
Because with Giselle and I, it was hard because we start talking on June 8, 2010. That was the first night that like she accepted my friend request on Facebook, and then literally instantly sent her a message and like, hey, you know, I'm from Miami.
Yeah.
The pastor's son's over here, whatever. And so we start talking. June 8, 2010. August, I was in her house. I flew to Argentina 2 months after that day. And I remember, this is wild because, you know, that's how I am. People who know me know me. This is how I am. I flew to Argentina. I went there for 15 days, I think it was, or 11 or 15 days. I stayed the first night at her house. And so I'm at the dinner table. It's her dad, her mom, her two brothers
You said that like you're in separate rooms. You say that like
no, I didn't.
You said that like
come
I
on,
said
dude.
the first.
I listened to the whole podcast talk about Christianity. Like, we were intimate.
There's
the first
levels
night.
to Christianity.
And we went to the club, and then we
yeah. No, so like that first night, I get there and there's like, I don't know, 8 people, 10 people. It's like her mom, her dad, her sister, her brother, and his girlfriend, her other brother, and his girlfriend, and then her little brother. And then I can't remember if there was a couple other people. But it was a lot of us, right?
Yeah.
At the dinner table. And so whatever. We're all sitting, we're laughing. Ha, ha, ha. They're asking me questions. I'm talking to her brothers. And then all of a sudden I noticed that like, you know, little by little, her brothers start getting up and like leaving. Mm-hmm. And then like, I look and it's like her dad, her mom, me, and Giselle.
Yep.
And her dad goes to me, so, Mika, tell me what's the purpose of your trip. That's literally what he told me. And I said, well, I came here because I wanted to meet you guys, meet Giselle in person, start a relationship, and eventually get married. Mm-hmm. And he looked at me like, okay. That's literally that was his answer. That's what I told him the first night that I met them.
Yes.
The first night that I met them.
Mm-hmm.
But I was crazy like that. And when Giselle and I met, it was not normal. Like when when it's spiritual, and I believe, I don't know if you say like you guys don't believe in the one. I kind of do. Mm-hmm. Because when Giselle and I met June 8, 2010, a week later, we were talking about getting married.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? A week later, I have the messages that I can show you, like where we were talking about getting married and starting a family, and she would move over here. Everything just went perfectly.
Same thing with Cynthia. Like, me and Cynthia got married, I think 7 months after we started dating.
You guys started in December and married in June.
Yeah. So it's tough because it's not that I don't. It's not that I don't believe in the one.
Yeah, change your story now.
No,
like,
no.
Your wife's and your wife and
like,
fiance are gonna listen to this. And,
no. But okay. It's not that I don't believe in the one, but I do think, like we said earlier, I think we tend to try to add words to prophecy, and we try to fill in a lot of what we should be doing dating wise with spirituality.
Oh yeah.
Like as we were talking about it earlier, I kept thinking about the prophet that God's like, go to this town, you're gonna find a widow, whatever, that he asked her to make him a cake, and God says, go to this town, you're gonna find a widow, but he doesn't describe her. He doesn't say like how many widows were there in that town. Part of it was him having to kind of look around, wait on God, and see. It was God spoke and then man walked, right? Like it's the combination. I think that's the perfect setting for dating is, we believe that God speaks and ordains and sets up divine connections, but it also takes men stepping in, 100%. Being men, right? Like we lost complete confidence as men, and we don't ask girls out. Like guys just don't do that anymore, and that's funny because I was telling a guy that I met the other day this exact same thing. I said, ask a girl out for coffee. You're gonna set yourself apart from all the other guys from your church.
Yeah.
Because they're over there like, waiting for a God to step down and like, I don't know. But just ask her for coffee and you're gonna stand out. And so it's like, I mean, guys don't do that anymore.
It's interesting that Christian guys who want to treat a woman right, who want to marry a woman and be faithful to them and start a family and do something beautiful are afraid to ask a girl out. And the guys that don't want any of that, all they want is to hook up with a girl, waste time, not call her ever again, just like completely waste the moment. They're the ones that are fearless.
But it's an insecurity
and
issue.
And going out and asking girls and you know, just...
Yeah.
I mean, if you're on TikTok and you see a video, it's like a dude will just be at like a college and be like, "What's your number, girl?" And it's like...
Yeah.
And I'm like, the girl turns around and it's like, "Here." And I'm like, what?
Yeah. It's also like the value that we attribute to dating and stuff,
Yeah.
you know? Like those guys who are just going out, they really don't see dating and building a relationship with that girl as something valuable. So they just find it easier to either gain and then just like not deal with it again, or just not get it at all, you know? While with men who like have intention and they want to get married and they want to start a family and honor God and honor their partner, there's more pressure behind that, so they know every step forward is a step closer to that reality.
Yeah.
You know, so there's more like oomph behind you asking someone. So I can sense that intimidation in
Yeah,
that,
yeah.
because now you're just like, well, I'm doing something that's really valuable and that's really heavy. You know, that has an impact on two people's lives.
Yeah, but I think a big part of it is like Johnny is saying, dude, they're waiting for God to move them.
Yeah, that can
They're
be part
waiting.
of it
I mean,
too.
every time a miracle happened in the Bible, God spoke and the person took the step of faith. I mean, God told Moses, right? Extend your arm, and then the sea opened up. God wasn't like, and he grabbed Moses' arm and extended it. No.
Yeah.
He spoke to them, and they took steps of faith. I mean, when I saw Giselle for the first time on a picture, I was like, wow, that girl's very pretty. And so I sent her a friend request. I wasn't like, well, if God brings her to Miami, I'll date her. No, I was like, I like her. Let me see if she'll accept my creepy friend request, you know? And then she accepted my friend request. And I was like, cool. Not even 10 seconds later, here's a message. Let's start talking. Like, you have to take these steps. You have to be proactive in it, you know?
Yeah.
And, I mean... Take a guy who wasn't Christian. I don't know. Let's think of somebody. Steven, for example. And you could probably talk to any girl, right? Before you were Christian. Did you have any difficulty talking to a girl?
Yeah, I still had difficulty time
dude,
to
you
time.
suck, bro.
Yeah,
No, no.
yeah, I ruined your whole
loser,
nerd.
No, but what I mean is like, if you liked a girl, was
Yeah.
was
Yeah,
it,
if I liked
was
her,
it very intimidating if you liked a girl?
no, if I liked her, it was a little bit less. No, not as intimidating. Like there was
Okay.
less at stake.
Perfect. Pause there. Now, you went through an encounter with God. Your life changed, right?
Yeah.
Did you feel more responsibility when you liked a girl as a Christian?
Yeah, because I felt like I had to sort of set a standard of or set the tone for the relationship, you know, and that started off with asking them out.
Perfect. So the difference is the responsibility that you felt, right? The difference was that before you knew God, it was just like whatever happens, right?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
once you met
No
God,
commitment.
you realize, oh man, there is a responsibility here. You
There is
understand
commitment.
that, and I think maybe Christian guys who don't understand that, maybe they struggle with it, but at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. Like you have to be, what is it called? You have to be purposeful. You have to
Proactive.
Yeah, I think it's a
you have
matter
to
of guys.
take the step.
I think it's a matter of guys try to fill in the fear of rejection with assurance.
Yeah.
If God told me, then there's no room for rejection.
Yeah. Oh, bro.
And it's like, no, you do have to face rejection.
Yeah.
It's just gonna
I
happen.
promise you will face rejection.
Yeah.
But
I
think that's what
promise
it is. It happens
you.
with girls. Cynthia would tell me all the time that like in certain places, like that they were taught from like their leaders, like, oh, like the guy that's for you has to bring you a rose color, like you have to ask God for your husband to bring you a white colored rose, and I don't know, just like such specifics.
Yeah.
And and it was funny because
the dude at the red light, Señora, tiene rosa blanca. Please.
killing it in that corner.
The lady in the corner is like, I've been murdering these roses today. What's going on?
But
they got a little side hustle with
the
the prophet.
funny
That's
thing,
what it
dude.
is.
The funny thing was when I met Cynthia, and she tells me all the time, the guys were so intense about like, God has to show me who to marry first.
Yeah.
And then just coming with all that intensity to a hi, how are you?
Oh my God.
That she was just turned off to it. And the funny thing was when I met her, I'm just like, hey, let's go grab some coffee. I'm asking her out over and over again, and she's like, it's not as intense, so let's go hang out. And I wooed her.
Where's my rose?
Where's my white rose?
And now I get to buy her roses.
Yeah. And I really think, and before we close off, I really think that sometimes people, to avoid rejection, they put God in front of them as like a shield, and they're like, okay, they're not rejecting me, they're rejecting God. But that's taken away from their ability to grow through that rejection, 100%. To be able to walk through that rejection and actually grow from that. They're softening their character. But all right, guys, it's the top of the hour. This conversation is awesome. So many more questions, so many things to talk about. But part 2, we're going to talk about marriage. Yeah. So you guys have a lot more experience in that than I do. So I'm going to come in with a lot of questions because I am about to get married.
I think that's why you set up the podcast. You're like,
the podcast.
I just want marriage advice.
Steven's sitting there writing notes. It's not really a podcast. It's just
actually
lessons.
It's marriage counseling. So let's pray. Let's close 100%. This off. Lord, thank you so much, Father, for this conversation. Thank you, Lord. I pray over anyone going through a season right now of dating. Anyone maneuvering these very real emotions that come with dating as a Christian, dating to honor you, Lord, dating with the pressure of what their churches say, what they may see out there, the different types of voices coming in through social media, through their surroundings, whatever it may be, Lord. Just I pray that they only pay attention to your voice. I pray that they only pay attention to what you say, that they only pay attention to the peace that you bring them, Father. And it says to give you their whole heart, their mind, and their body, and everything else will follow, Lord. So I just pray for these people to go through their dating season embracing you and trusting your guidance. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Awesome.